Well, friends, it's National Let's Laugh Day, in case you didn't know. So in that spirit, we have joining us comedic storyteller Jamie Brickhouse. He's in the house. I'm sure you get that a lot, huh?
I do get that. And I also get that Commodore song, She's a Brick House.
Oh, yeah.
It's great to come with your own theme
song.
Well,
welcome to Indiana, too, since you came with your own theme song. First time you've been here, huh?
My first time.
How does one become a comedic storyteller? I'm not sure that I've heard that before.
Well, let's see. You do stand-up comedy in New York in the early 90s, and then you realize that you tell stories more than just set up punchline.
Mm-hmm.
And then you discover the storytelling world. Have you heard of The Moth?
No.
The Moth is this, it's on NPR, and they have live storytelling shows where people come up and tell personal narrative stories. They're, you know, true stories. And I started doing that, but always infused with a lot of humor. And then I started writing a memoir called Dangerous When Wet.
Oh.
And I started telling stories from the book, which are laced with stories about my outrageous, big-haired Texas Mama Jean.
You grew up in Texas.
Yes.
Have lived in New York for...
like 30 years.
Well, that's a story within itself, right?
Oh, yes, and plenty of stories.
So you had the big Texas hair.
Yes, the big Texas hair, and a mother who loved me so much.
Okay.
It was like...
it was dangerous.
It was smother love. You know, it was like, I describe it as... She loved me, her love cloaked me like a cashmere blanket in August.
Well, you know, we read so much about your quote-unquote complicated, look at that picture there, relationship with your mother. A lot of us have interesting relationships.
There's that big hair, right.
Can you introduce us to Mom? What was she like?
Mama Jean.
Oh, you see that love right there.
She was, I describe her as like the Elizabeth Taylor of Beaumont, Texas.
Oh,
so she
Beaumont.
was every inch the movie star, you know, self-made, image obsessed, demanding with the patience of a firecracker, makeup camera ready, and almost always in close-up. And she never had a thought she didn't speak.
Oh.
She was one of those women. But she made all, my parents were married their, you know, my entire childhood, but she made all the money. And she called all the shots. And so she was a realtor and then a stockbroker, and very successful as a stockbroker, which was no small feat for a woman in the 70s and 80s in small town Texas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was a force, is what it sounds like. Very special.
She was a force of nature.
Okay,
yes,
and so she's made her way into your shows. What did she think about that?
Well, she died before I started telling stories and writing about her, and she always wanted me to be a writer, but I was too busy drinking.
Oh, okay,
so,
yeah, sure.
And she was always on to me about my drinking, and I ended up getting sober with her help when I bottomed out, and she slapped on her makeup and hopped on a plane from Beaumont, Texas, and flew up to New York when I had bottomed out, which you'll see a lot of that in the show that I'm doing. And, you know, and she was, I lived in fear of her reaction. You know, I didn't want her to know that it had gotten this bad, even though she already knew. And, you know, I just thought she was just going to point a red fingernail at me and say, I knew you turned out like this. I just knew it. And when I came back from the hospital, when I'd bottomed out, she was waiting in the apartment. And I was wrong, and she just grabbed me and hugged me for dear life.
Oh,
and
Jamie.
she said, oh, I'm just so happy to see you alive. But then she regained her dexterity a little bit later when a psychiatrist friend came over to, you know, kind of gingerly and clinically explain the next steps for treating my alcoholism. And she said, cut to the chase, doctor. Are we going to have to lock him up?
Oh. There goes Mom. Quickly, tell us about your show and when we can see it. You're doing a hybrid schedule, right? A
hybrid show. I'm really excited because this is the first time I have done this show. I've done this show many all over the world and all over the country. The last time I did it was in San Miguel, Mexico. It's called Dangerous When Wet, Booze, Sex, and My Mother, and it's based on my memoir of the same title, adapted from the book, and it is a hybrid show. So I'm doing it on a live stage for a you know, limited capacity audience, but they're live streaming it simultaneously.
So we can get in on that.
People can watch it via Zoom.
What do tickets cost?
Tickets are like, I think you can go online and get them. I think it depends on I think it's $20 individual, right. And what, 30 for the family.
Okay.
For the family
ticket.
Sounds
good, Jamie. This kind of guy, I'm telling you, I just grab a cup of coffee and sit and chat with you. But we will make sure that we stream that, storytellingarts.org.
Yes.
looks like
You got
to
it.
get on via Zoom. And again, I hope you have a good time the rest of your stay in
Thank
Indy.
you, and I
before
hope
you go
people come
back.
to see the show, either in person or via the magic of Zoom.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks for sharing your story, Jamie.
Thank you.
Randy, over to you.